and welcome to News Now. I'm your host, Taylor Inman. We're going over the week's biggest headlines for Northwest Montana. Northwest Montana mountain snowpack is trending ahead of average to begin the year, offering a stark contrast to the dire drought that plagued the region in 2024. The Flathead Basin snowpack was at 105% of the median on January 1st, while the Kootenai and Lower Clark Fork basins were boasting snowpacks of 117% and 125% respectively. A year ago, the Flathead Basin was at 53% of median in January. The region benefited from a Pacific deluge in early November, along with the latest snowy onslaught between Christmas and New Year's holidays. Upper elevations across northwest Montana have received up to 36 inches of snow since the end of December. Dry conditions persisted for the first half of December throughout most of Montana until the tide began to turn just before New Year's, with a true winter system bringing in much-needed snow to the region. That's according to Eric Larson, a USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service hydrologist. The Swan Range is holding the most snow, with the Noisy Basin snowpack at 147% of normal. The weather station at 6,040 feet in elevation already shows 95 inches of snow depth. Moss Peak in the Mission Range boasts 76 inches of snowpack, which is 129% of normal. Meanwhile, the Northern Whitefish Range is holding 64 inches of snow depth on Stall Peak near Eureka, and Flat Top Mountain in Glacier National Park is holding 61 inches. Valley locations, however, present a different scenario. Kalispell recorded its fourth warmest December on record with a mean temperature of 31.3 degrees, more than 7 degrees above normal. The coldest temperatures came on December 2nd when the mercury dipped to 11. The city is yet to record a low in the single digits this winter. Meanwhile, less than 3 inches of snow fell in the city last month, ranking as the 9th lowest December total on record. Normally, Kalispell sees about 16 inches of snow in December. January is off to a more wintry start with about 5 inches of snowfall so far in Kalispell this month. While drought conditions are no longer present across most of northwest Montana, the state's water supply outlook report for January cautions that last year's dry winter could have lingering effects into this spring. The report states that below normal snowpack during the previous season can result in reduced soil moisture and low stream flow levels leading into the current season. In such cases, as the snow melts in the spring, the soil may absorb much of the water, potentially reducing available surface water. Normal to above normal snowpack conditions this winter will be necessary to offset last year's drought, according to the report. Looking ahead, the Federal Climate Prediction Center shows above normal precipitation for January, with temperatures near normal, a combination that would bolster snowpack moving deeper into the winter. In Montana, the mountain snowpack generally peaks in April. The Biden administration will continue protecting about 2,000 grizzly bears in 4 Rocky Mountain states, despite objections from Republican-led states, according to U.S. wildlife officials on Wednesday. The Associated Press obtained details of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service decision in advance of a planned public announcement. Federal officials also said they will reclassify the grizzly status so that ranchers would be able to shoot bears that are killing livestock. Officials will end protections for the animals in states where they're no longer found, including California, Colorado, New Mexico, and Oregon. Grizzlies have been protected as a threatened species across the lower 48 since 1975. Officials during President-elect Donald Trump's first term sought to eliminate those protections but were blocked in court. Republican officials in Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming petitioned the Fish and Wildlife Service beginning in 2021, seeking to reclaim state management of the grizzly population. That would have opened the door to public hunts, although state officials said that they would be limited and not endanger the overall population. Federal officials said they will work towards ending protections eventually, but declined to offer a timeline. The agency's actions drew a sharp rebuke from Montana Representative Ryan Zinke, who worked on a prior attempt to remove protections when he led the U.S. Interior Department under Trump. Grizzlies greatly expanded their range over the past several decades, including in parts of western Washington state. That's led to more conflicts between humans and bears, including periodic attacks on livestock and rarely on people. U.S. government scientists concluded years ago that the bear population in parts of the West, including around Yellowstone and Glacier National Park, had biologically recovered, but there's been concern that state wildlife laws wouldn't be enough to protect the animals. Former Fish and Wildlife Service Grizzly Recovery Coordinator Chris Servin said that keeping protections in place will allow grizzlies to continue expanding into new areas. Without those safeguards, he added, the species would again be driven towards extinction because of habitat losses due to climate change and hostile state officials intent on reducing bear populations. An estimated 50,000 grizzlies once roamed portions of 18 western states, stretching from Texas to the Canadian border. They were wiped out in most areas by overhunting and trapping. By 1975, only about 700 to 800 bears remained in the lower 48 states. Following an intensive recovery effort led by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, there are now more than 2,000 grizzlies in the lower 48 and larger populations in Alaska where hunting is allowed. Prior attempts to lift protections in 2007 and 2017 were blocked in federal court. In 2021, federal officials decided protections were still needed because of pressures such as the number of bear deaths caused by humans. Authorities reconsidered over the past 2 years at the request of governors in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. Federal officials also raised concerns about laws from Republican-led states that could potentially harm grizzly populations. Among them was a Montana law allowing grizzlies to be killed if they attack livestock. A Libby man accused of felony animal cruelty charges after 2 of his dogs were found starving earlier this fall pleaded not guilty to the offenses. 29-year-old Zachary Allen McGuire is facing 6 counts related to the discovery of the dogs earlier this fall, identified as Angel and Cinnamon. The charges include 3 felony counts of animal cruelty and 3 misdemeanors, 1 for animal cruelty and 2 for dogs running at large. Public defender Scott Johnson entered the plea on behalf of his client at McGuire's arraignment on December 16th. McGuire was released from custody on his recognizance. Part of his release terms say he is not permitted to own animals. His next court hearing is scheduled for January 13th. According to the narrative by Lincoln County Sheriff's Office Deputy Andrew Smith in the charging document, Smith was patrolling September 16th in the area of Farm to Market Road and Wards Road when he saw 2 dogs running loose in the 100 block of Wards Road. Smith reported one of the dogs appeared to be extremely emaciated. Smith loaded the dog Angel into his vehicle and went to a home on Wards Road where the other dog had run. The property owner said the dogs belonged to McGuire, who was staying on his land. The deputy left business cards with the property owner and took the dog to the county animal shelter. McGuire called Smith later that evening and allegedly said he was unable to come up with money to take proper care of the dogs. The next day, September 17th, Smith took Angel to Treasure Valley Veterinary Clinic for an exam. The dog weighed 29.6 pounds, and the veterinarian said the dog was extremely emaciated, suffered from an obvious loss of muscle mass, both ears were infected, and may have a cancerous tumor on her left mammary gland. The next day, Smith met with McGuire at his residence and the defendant brought out a second dog, Cinnamon. It appeared just to be as emaciated as Angel. McGuire surrendered both dogs to the county. He allegedly said he hadn't taken either dog to the vet for medical care. When the deputy took Cinnamon to the vet clinic, it weighed 26.6 pounds, was also extremely emaciated, suffered from an obvious loss of muscle mass, and had a rotten tooth extracted. In addition, an x-ray of the dog showed 10 large bladder stones. The veterinarian told Smith there was an absolute need for veterinary care for both dogs. McGuire was cited for failing to provide enough food and water to sustain the animal's health and failing to obtain appropriate medical care. A conviction for felony animal cruelty may result in a 2-year term in the Montana State Prison. A conviction misdemeanor animal cruelty may result in 1-year term in county jail. A conviction for dogs running at large may result in a 6-month county jail sentence. Thanks for joining us. News Now is a podcast from the Daily Interlake. We're proud to be the largest independent newsroom in Montana and the longest continuously published newspaper in the region. Local journalism is important, and subscribing to your local newspaper is one of the best things you can do for your community. The Daily Interlake is celebrating its 135th birthday with a special subscription offer of only $19.50 per month for a home-delivered newspaper, plus full digital access to all 8 of our award-winning independent newspapers. Give us a call at 406-755-7018 to sign up today and do your part to keep community journalism alive and thriving. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel to never miss an episode of the pod. Everybody stay safe and have a great week. Thanks to our sponsor, Lauren's Auto Repair at 1309 US Highway 2 in Kalispell. Most consistently rated 5-star shop serving the Kalispell area. Visit lawrensauto.com.
Will take care of you. The highest rated and